How's it going, everybody? My name is fallinghurts, and today I wanted to do a little bit of a review for a game that I needed to get to. It was in my backlog for a little while now. And that is HollowBody from Headwear Games, and it is $16.99 US, and it came out back in September 12th, 2024. I had to look up the date though. If it were one day sooner, don't worry, I wouldn't have forgotten. And funny enough, I actually followed and supported this game on Kickstarter because the previous game from Headwear Games was Chasing Static, a game I liked a lot. And with supporting a game on Kickstarter like that before it's even had proper videos putting out anything about the game, clearly I had a lot of faith in Nathan, the solo dev at Headwear Games, to create a unique horror experience. And honestly, I hate to admit it, but after a strong start and a gripping hook, I quickly lost interest in HollowBody as I traversed the first major area in the apartment building. The lack of visual diversity left the exploration feeling weak and even disorienting. Not to mention the few bugs that I had within playing the game all happened within this early area as well. But the thing that kept me going was the story. We play as Mika, who in a nearish future is flying her car ship Thing into a city that was hit with bioterrorism decades prior, and once the infection spread, the government bombed the city. So, a wonderfully bleak landscape is a perfect home for conspiracy, as well as our love interest, Sasha, who went on a mission just days earlier with a team of concerned citizens to reveal the truth. There's obviously more that happens than that, as the game takes about 4 to 5 hours from my experience, and the amount of world building created within the environments and the notes around the city is astounding. Whether they are illustrating the tensions of the building tenants having to deal with the construction outside, to quarantine, borderline martial law, and civil unrest all play into the game's themes very, very well. To me, I read HollowBody as a game about isolation, and as a counter-argument to it. I'll leave it at that, but maybe one day I'll come back around to this as a topic for a more in-depth critique or analysis of HollowBody. Let me know if that's ever a video that you would like to see. The final bit of the narrative that was really cool to me are these points where you can kind of listen to conversations of the past on the radio, and outside of obviously being a collectible, I loved these for a reason. As a huge fan of all things horror, who really didn't get Ari Aster and with Midsommar or Hereditary, I think HollowBody was able to show me dread by striking chords I wasn't even aware I had. Psychological, but on a much more realistic level than I'd ever expected. As someone who is almost kind of a self-diagnosed toxic dependency within any relationship, there was one audio log that genuinely raised my heart rate more than any other scare could. I don't expect it to mean something for everyone, but when horror is done right, it works really, really well. These also do a great job of furthering the divide between the evil company and its guards and the normal people. Moving on to the gameplay, it's admittedly pretty basic, but it's down to the roots what you'd expect from the genre and the era it's attempting to be in. The basic loop is explore until the way forward is blocked. If it's an enemy, kill it or try to run past it. If it's a puzzle, find the right item somewhere nearby in order to use it on the obstacle. For instance, finding a key that can unlock a door. Starting with the puzzles and exploration, I feel like that'll be the easiest to talk about. HollowBody is at its best when it's creating an atmosphere of a full town with streets to walk through and multiple houses or buildings to enter. The item-based puzzles have grown a bit stale for me in the genre as a whole over the years, and while that isn't down to any one game's problem, I would have loved to see a bit more of a need to actually combine items and, think more about what's in your inventory, rather than just simply having the right tool for the job. I'm not saying it's completely devoid of that, but I would have liked to see more of that kind of critical thinking. Now, the combat is both intuitive and infuriating at the same time. On one hand, the no HUD but lock-on shooting feels satisfying, as the struggle isn't whether you can hit your shots, but rather you need to position yourself to be able to get them off in time before the enemy approaches. The melee, on the other hand, is the real piece of shit here. Like the shooting, there's a variety of melee weapons, and most of them have varying levels of speed, damage, and quite frankly, responsiveness. I treat each new weapon I find like an upgrade. But after I got the guitar, there wasn't one single weapon that I didn't feel like I was swinging and missing the enemies the majority of the time, which left me wide open for attacks as you're unable to cancel, obviously. It's not really that kind of game. So I found myself downgrading damage in order to actually be able to hit, because the game feel at the end of the day is what makes this experience feel less frustrating. So in that way, there is kind of a right way to play, but I don't know, it was more frustrating than it was actually challenging, which is never good. Enemy designs were pretty cool, but there aren't that many. There is something to be said about how visually the enemies aren't much more than featureless people, or hollow bodies. I do wish there was more enemy gameplay variety, rather than these ones are a little bit taller and take more hits. But all in all, for the length and the style of the game, I'd say it doesn't weigh on me too much either. It doesn't really affect my criticism. But to round out, let's talk about presentation. HollowBody, as I've already said, does an incredible job at making the player feel. The overbearing and straight up abrasive audio feels like you can never really catch your breath. Well, until the game drops sound altogether and the silence is almost deafening. Voice acting throughout is nothing short of great. Between Chasing Static and this game, I really love that as you get closer and closer to the enemies, you almost get a kind of radio sound effect to kind of indicate how near the enemies are. And I don't want to say it's like a tiny detail that people missed, but I just love, that analog feel of the horror here. Voice acting throughout is nothing short of great. I wish we got a bit more of Mika herself, but that's just a testament to the quality. I want to circle back around to those audio logs that you can find with the radio wave recordings, and they are amazing. The ability to transfer you into these different times and scenarios and actually feel for these characters that we never hear from or hear about again is great, both on a writing and performance standpoint. And there is true quality within this game in a lot of facets. The music is eerie and can almost lull you into a sense of calm, but if your brain has any wrinkles at all, context of the greater experience as a whole won't ever truly let you relax. Visually speaking, HollowBody does exactly what I loved about Chasing Static. It utilizes drab and gray color palettes to contrast with strong colors that lead the player forward, both with gameplay and thematically. The dull colors almost elicit a lack of sensation as you traverse the ruins of this city, but as the next red light rises and marks your progress, so does Mika's hope. And also, while we're speaking about the looks of the game, you may have noticed that I'm playing in third person and not with the fixed camera angles. Quite frankly, this was just something added in a later update, and I wanted to differentiate my review from someone else's. And while I did play the demo back during the Steam Next Fest where it was present with fixed camera angles, and I thought those played perfectly fine, I can't speak about those for the game as a whole. There might be, unfortunate angles here or there, I don't know. But from a third-person perspective, outside of having to mess around with the sensitivity by default, I thought it was actually pretty competent. It did feel a little weird with the fact that no matter what, you're going to have lock-on aiming. And in that way, it felt like I should be able to aim in third person. But once I got over that mental hump, it made perfect sense. It played just fine. And I liked what the game was doing. If anything, it allowed me to see some textures and appreciate more things in a different viewpoint. Because the whole environments were built up already, now I just got to see them in more detail. I've already talked about enemy designs. I think Mika as a character looks really cool. There's very visible, pixel detail on her, and it harkens back to an era that I personally didn't play at the time. But, I played catch up with games throughout the years, and I really love the aesthetics of HollowBody. There's no other way around it. The environments themselves outside of, some earlier on actually get pretty interesting. And there was a lot more variety than I gave the game credit for how much time I spent in the hotel in the beginning. That could also just be me playing in a bad state of mind too. But I do believe, give yourself, if you buy this game, past the first section to really decide if you like the game or not. And without spoiling some of the later stuff, I do want to say there's a good bit of visual treats, throughout the course of it, whether it be environmentally, creatures, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of cool stuff. While I believe presentation-wise audio was the main draw, this game definitely isn't bad on the eyes either. And with that being said, I like HollowBody. At the end of the day, do I love it? Is it one of my favorite experiences of all time? Absolutely not. And the best way I can say it is that it's just a good game. It's not perfect, and it's certainly not bad. It's much closer to perfect than it ever is bad. But it's not perfect. And I know that Headwear Games, or however you want to say it, has talked about, moving back to a 2D space in the future for games. And, I'll support that. I haven't played the previous games before Chasing Static. But I really hope, whether it be first person, third person, or what have you, I really hope they give one more solid shot at horror. I feel like there were a lot of improvements to audio, writing, everything in this game. It was much more cohesive, even to someone who really enjoyed chasing static in that way, to a central theme that I feel like one more solid shot is deserved. That is my plea to Nathan, wherever you are. You'll probably not even ever see this video, but that's fine. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Falling Hurts. Consider subscribing. You're going to really like the next retrospective I'm doing. I'm not going to say what it is. If you've seen previous videos, you might know. If not, stay tuned. Hope to see you soon.